Welcome, everybody. This is the Jaden Jeffs Podcast, where we ask questions about religion, cults, and questionable cult leaders like Russel and Nielsen. Now, you guys all know that I am the one true prophet of God on earth that holds the keys to your salvation. And if you have any chance of making it to the celestial kingdom, I am your path whereby you can do that. You know, and you can see I have a receding hairline, which qualifies me to be a prophet. Therefore, kneel down on your knees, seek that testimony, you'll get it. If Joseph Smith was a prophet, if my dad was a prophet, if Russell M. Nielsen was a prophet, I'm also a prophet. I have the same receding hairline. Everybody knows I've got it. It's in my genes. It's in my blood. You should get down on your knees. If you don't get that testimony from the Lord, you just didn't pray long enough. You're not in tune with Him. So I would just highly recommend getting that. And then we can jump right into this. Was Russell M. Nielsen a cult leader? Was he a good man? You know, tons of people in the Mormon church are mourning the passing of President Nielsen. He lived to be 101 years old. Now, for one, I just am having a hard time understanding why you would mourn somebody living to 101 years old. If he was 50 or something, I would understand the mourning. But like, this guy was 101 years old. Now, to be fair, my grandfather was like 92 or 3 or something. I don't even know when he died. And we all mourned like mad. So I guess I get it in the sense that the prophet's gone. But at the same time, if somebody lives to 101 years old, like, just chill out and have a little bit of celebration. Now, I just want to be clear here. I am using people's mourning as a way of poking fun of tragedy in some sense. And I would do that. In fact, let me explain that the church, religion in general, grasps tragedy and turns it into your purpose for believing in faith and in God. And I intend to do the same thing to get you to have a more open mind. If everybody's mourning something, like the passing of President Nielsen, I intend to use that to get you to have a more open mind and to help me have a more open mind. I fully intend to use tragedy as a way to get people to have a more open mind, not to control you more like religion does. What I am saying is don't turn to men to solve your tragedies, because that'll always bring more control for them over you. And I'm just making clear, I fully understand what I'm doing. And I am just more honest about it than religion. This is the advantage religion has. They can simply say, God is in this. We got to turn to Him. They relieve you of the pain of your suffering by lying to you that God told them that they're the prophet. And I use tragedy to help you have a more open mind. The truth isn't easy to accept. But when I was thinking about this, I remembered how difficult it was. If you don't know, my dad is Warren Jeffs, the prophet of the FLDS. And yeah, he's probably just as good of a man as Russell M. Nielsen, if we're being honest. I know a lot of people are going to hate me saying that. They're going to come at me and be like, he wasn't a heart surgeon and the head of the church of 15 million people. But he also didn't have near the money to protect him from lawsuits and stuff. I mean, to be fair, he did. But I'm just saying, like, Russell M. Nielsen was the single person in the church that could have shut down every sexual abuse, that could have condemned every bit of sexual abuse in the Mormon church. He's the one person that for sure could have done it. And instead, he threw millions of dollars at their attorneys to make sure these things just went under the rug. Now, I get the logical explanation of Mormons that this isn't the Mormon church's fault if one member does wrong. But I promise you, sexual abuse is slid under the rug by the Mormon church way more than people think. And the leaders often push it under the rug and let those leaders continue in their leadership positions. And I'm saying, yeah, maybe he wasn't an actual evil predator himself, but I still don't believe that being at the head of the church like that and just pushing these things under the rug and throwing $100 million to attorneys to fight the cases is exactly better than doing something bad yourself. Like, enabling a bunch of people to do it maybe is more evil than if it was just you doing it. I don't know. You guys decide. People look at Russell M. Nielsen and are like, how can you look at him as a cult leader? They ask how I can look at this good man as a cult leader. But I'm going to tell you what. As much as you think of President Nielsen as a good person, and maybe he was, as much as you think he was, I thought my dad was better. I truly at one point did. And now I can look at anybody any way I want to, because I don't have biases. I got over loving some of the people I love the most. I realized that maybe those people weren't so good. And I also realized that people are complicated. And when you say somebody's good, there's probably a whole nother side to them that's super evil. And maybe that includes you. And maybe that includes me. Although I know I am basically a perfect prophet that can hardly do any wrong. Now let's get to some of Russell M. Nielsen's high-powered, wonderful accomplishments. One of which was to convince the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to stop getting called Mormons. The Mormon Church. He hated that name. Now let me read to you from our beloved prophet, Russell M. Nielsen. When it comes to nicknames of the church, such as LDS Church, the Mormon Church, or the Church of Latter-day Saints, the most important thing in those names is the absence of the Savior's name. To remove the Lord's name from the Lord's church is a major victory for Satan. That's a direct quote from Russell M. Nielsen. Now let me read you a direct quote from Joseph Smith, recorded in the History of the Church, Volume 5, page 399. I have been asked what Mormon means. The word Mormon means literally more good, is what Joseph Smith said. Now to be clear, Joseph Smith was not making a linguistic claim that Mormon comes from more good, but it was more of a rhetorical move, reclaiming the name that was kind of given to him through mockery, as reclaiming it as like a good thing. But Mormon was used as a label often by Mormons themselves in the Evening and Morning Star and the Times and Seasons. I'm just saying, you can believe the President Nielsen, or you can believe Joseph Smith, but you guys cannot believe both. Those guys would not get along. I promise you that. As much as they think they would, those guys are going to fight like hell in heaven or hell, wherever they end up. You'll have to ask. Actually, I should know. I'm going to ask God that tonight, and I'll get back with you guys tomorrow. I know I am the prophet. I should never say I don't know, because God reveals everything to me. It's crazy. He's always coming down and just in my ear, telling me all kinds of things. He told me a bunch of stuff about Russell Nielsen. He's like, he's definitely a cult leader. That's what God told me. And you guys should take that without any question. Take my word for it. Jesus said so. I shouldn't use Jesus' name. Oh, that's going to get me in trouble. Okay. Was Russell Nielsen a good man? In some sense, I do believe he was a good man. He loved his family. He loved his wife. He wanted to do good in the religion. Here's a truth that is difficult for people to accept. When you are raised in a good place, what appears to be a good place, and you maintain that devotion to it and become the leader of it like Russel M. Nielsen did, it is very difficult for you to see outside of it. Russel M. Nielsen was a supporter of the church. He was raised in a more educated time. He was a doctor. He was a heart surgeon. He did a lot of good things. But being raised in those situations blind you from other realities that may be true. It blinds you from accepting that there might be more sexual harassment going on under your leadership. It blinds you from the tendencies of your own human nature in the assumption that you have overcome that in your religion. And until those things get to a breaking point that's so obvious people hate it and can't stand it, you will never be able to see it. So yes, everybody says that I've ever met, basically, I'm talking about Mormon friends, Russel Nielsen is such a good man. It's like, okay, so am I. And so was my dad. And so was everybody else. They're like, no. Like, he's such a good person. We really feel God. I can't tell you how many people personally told me hour-long stories about my dad doing insane good things for other people and being inspired. Russel M. Nielsen was huge on personal revelation, which I know I am the best at. You should come to me for yours. I'm just saying, my dad was definitely better at personal revelation. His stories about personal revelation were way better than Russel M. Nielsen's. Russel M. Nielsen stands no comparison to my dad's stories. I'm just saying, everybody's a good person, and everybody is a bad person. It's within all of us to be good and to be bad. And I would never go to such great lengths as to say Russel M. Nielsen didn't do anything bad. Oh, but he overcame his human fallen nature. Well, in some sense, so did my dad. But those things manifest in other ways that we don't understand. They manifest in morally justified ways in our own minds. One who thinks they have overcome human nature through their religious practices will justify the things that they want to do through morally insane ideas the most. A perfect example of this is the Mormon Church and their changing the garments or ordinances over time. They want to do what human nature wants to do, but they would never admit that to themselves. So how does that desire manifest? Through the highest possible authority, revelation, God. When people assume they have overcome their fallen nature, the only justification for doing what they want to do is the highest authority, which is God. And that's how the greatest evils are done. And the Mormon Church, with their billions of dollars, is sure helping the poor, aren't they? And I'm so grateful for all they do for the poor. It's amazing. I wonder how their hedge fund is going to help the poor in 40 years from now. Is probably what they say. But today, they need you to pay their tithing, even if you can't hardly afford your rent. And I'm a perfect testament to all you guys that if you stop paying your 10% tithing, I promise you the Lord will bless you more than he ever did when you paid your 10%. I promise you. He did it for me. He'll do it for you. This is how you can gain a greater testimony of me as a true prophet of God. Try this. Stop paying your tithing to anybody and instead use it to pay your rent and get on top of your bills. And don't give any of your money to anybody for a while. Just put 10% in your savings account. And I promise the Lord will prosper and bless you. That's my commitment to you. Oh, and if you wanted to support a true prophet of God, go over to my Substack, link in the description. It's $5 a month or $50 a year for good content like this. And why wouldn't you want to support the true prophet of God on earth? Seriously. And remember, I have a receding hairline. I'm capable of this. At least, kind of. It's probably not yet, actually. We'll get there. President Nielsen was born September 9th, 1924, died December 27th, 2025. That is an insanely long life. And that's wonderful. Good for him. I just don't think we should be mourning totally. Maybe celebrating a good life. President Nielsen had 10 children, 9 daughters, 1 son, got a PhD in medicine at the University of Minnesota in 1954, served as a U.S. Army Medical Corps during the Korean War, was a pioneer in open heart surgery, ordained to the Quorum of the 12 Apostles on April 7th, 1984. What a good memory. Imagine being there on that day and seeing a future prophet of God ordained to the apostleship, whose life and labors led up to such a great moment, who became the president of the church and the prophet of the Mormon Church on January 14th, 2018. What a somber, great day that was. The amazing thing is I was a prophet before then, and I'm still alive. So you can look to me from here on out if you've been confused about who the president of the church really is. It's so insane. He reorganized the first presidency, calling Daniel H. Oakes and Henry B. Eyring as counselors. It's got to be Eyring as counselors. Issued the directive August 16th, 2018 to stop using the nickname Mormon. President Nielsen, I will give him credit for this. This is one masterful thing he did. He made meeting shorter. That's what I want from the prophet. If the next prophet makes it 1 hour, I'm happy. We want meeting to be a half an hour or less. 20 minutes. I call on Dallin H. Oakes, who we'll get to here in a minute, to make church a half an hour. That is the future goal of the president of the church. I fully credit Russel M. Nielsen with this great accomplishment. Russel M. Nielsen reversed 2015 policy barring baptism of children of same-sex couples. Which is interesting, like they barred children who were same-sex couples' children from being baptized. Which is very strange. Like maybe you bar them, but their children? Like what? Okay. Well, he reversed that, so I guess I'll give him some credit for that. Now, he oversaw 133 new temples announced, more than any other LDS president, and became the oldest living president in church history. Congrats, cult leader. 133 new temples. 133 new places that you can make sure you're making more money. If the other 1,000 temples, or however many they have, I have no idea, were making a bunch of money, I'm sure glad he announced they were going to put 133 more in. Because I would have done that too if I was running a business. And that's all the LDS Church is. Cult leader, business leader. That's what Russel M. Nielsen was. He liked those numbers. And he was like, you know what? I'm going to talk about faith in general conference and get the numbers up when I'm in the back room. And otherwise, I'm going to love my family and be a really good person. I'm telling you, I'm kind of the same way. In the back room, I'm looking for ways to increase my profits. In the front room, I'm saying the morally correct things, but I still make a better profit because I just got there sooner than Russel M. Nielsen. God called me when I was like 3 or something. I can't quite remember. Now, I also just want to talk about the sexual allegations that I was speaking of earlier. President Nielsen spoke strongly against abuse. So did my dad, dude. Calling it a grievous sin and an influence of the adversary. Critics, however, point to past cases in which local church leaders allegedly failed to report abuse or mishandled cases. And the church threw just a ton of money in lawsuits, or a ton of money at the lawsuits filed against them. And I get defending yourself, but also like, if you see something wrong, you should probably do something. And I know personal stories of people that had sexual misconduct happen and they literally cannot do anything about it as far as the church leaders go. The thing about it for me is the president of the church is supposed to be the ultimate decider of these things. And when somebody does one of these sins, they're supposed to be cut off from the church. But the church rarely cuts them off. They just kind of let it go by. It's very strange to me in some sense. But also, it's to be expected. The truth is, it's in all big religion. Some sort of sexual misconduct is in all big religion. I guess, for me, it's like, I once loved my dad a ton. And I was able to come to accept everything like that's true about him. And now I can just hammer anybody. And I'll be honest, like maybe it is some bias, but I'm just saying I can see it perfectly clearly without any bias, especially when it comes to the Mormon church, because I do feel the Mormon church has a level of hypocrisy that is just insane. And I think the leader is the ultimate person that pushes that. Like, the leader of the Mormon church, to me, is the ultimate hypocrite. Because they know so much about the origins of the church, about all the teachings and the history of the church. And they lie about a ton of things, from Joseph Smith and polygamy to 1,000 other things that they know aren't true, that they tell you lies about and decide how church members receive the doctrine. And to me, that's just a cult leader. That's why I call Russel Nielsen a cult leader. You might not look at it that way. I have no problem looking at it that way. I'll call him a cult leader. You can call me a cult leader. You know I'm the best cult leader, prophet, seer, revelator, anything. I'm just saying, to me, the hypocrisy in the Mormon church is even worse than the Catholic church, maybe. I don't especially say that about Joseph Smith because I think Joseph Smith was more true to his teachings than the Mormon church is true to anything. I say that more particularly about modern church leaders. The level of hypocrisy in those guys is insane to me. The way that they justify everything through revelation to make the church popular is bananas. God calls them to do all these changes to make the church more popular so that you'll stay a member and all these other things. It's insane. What a bunch of bullshit, if you ask me. And I can see it from 3,000 miles away. And everybody wants to line up and be like, it's just fine. And maybe it is for you. But for me, I'm fed up with that bullshit. I truly believe that in principle, Joseph Smith was much more true to himself than the modern day leaders of the church. Because if those guys were really truth-seeking, honorable, sure they can be honorable, maybe to some degree. But if they were truly truth-seeking, this wouldn't make sense totally to them. And they would, like, power corrupts. Power is a justification for these things in the sense that if they knew all the things they know without a position of power, they would probably leave. But if they find out all the negative things and things that they know, as a church leader with power, they have a greater reason to justify it. I would probably do the same thing. I'm going to be honest, like, who knows? I might do the same thing. Giving up your whole life just because, like, some of this crazy stuff doesn't make sense? Probably not. That's what I expect them to do, though, for some reason. Even though maybe I wouldn't do it myself. I don't know what I would do. I truly don't. I'd probably get to be president of the Mormon Church and just make a whole bunch of changes and be like, guys, I don't know what's going on for sure. God told me to tell you guys to just have a good time. Play more basketball. We're going to put 2 hoops in every, one on the outside now of every church building to attract more strangers that like to play basketball. Something like that. I would definitely introduce pickleball tournaments on Sunday afternoon if I was president of the Mormon Church. Mormons like pickleball, so do I. That's one place we can get along. Let's see if we can implement that. President Oaks, we're counting on you. Well, guys, I don't have that much more to say about President Nielsen. But, as you know, I would never skip a tragedy to convince you to have a more open mind. I expect that you're going to have a more open mind about your cult leaders. And I will strive to do that. In everything I do, I have one goal. In every video I make, I have a goal. And it's to maintain an open mind. I will talk to any religious person. Mormon, not Mormon, atheist, full-on, Jesus-loving, hugging, everything. I'll talk to you. Catholic, Muslim, Buddhists, I would talk to anybody. I would challenge you that if an idea is repulsive to you, perhaps you should consider it. If your conscience screams to not investigate something, ask if that's really your conscience or if it's your unfamiliarity with things. Because I promise your conscience will also justify a lot of things you do. Let me give you an example. When I was a young boy, I would watch some of my moms, because Dad had 80 wives, right? Or 79. More than you could handle, believe me. I would watch them not like a child. But they would never admit that to themselves. So what's their moral justification for punishment of that child? It's to find something they did wrong and punish them in some way for the immorality they did to help them be a better person. I'm just saying, I don't like the modern day religious ideas, but I think fundamentally it's more just human nature. But my problem with religion is that in the striving to overcome human nature and be a better person, we bring in insane moral justifications to do the same wrongs we would otherwise just acknowledge that we would do. That's my problem with it. We should strive to be better people. As you know, I'm the prophet. You guys should look to me for your revelation. Instead of joining the Mormon Church, join me. I don't require 10% of your tithing. As I said, do this thing I said. Try not paying 10% of your tithing and see how your life improves. That's God's testament to you that you were doing the wrong thing when you were paying 10% of your tithing. Get over that shit. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. I have no apologies. I am the prophet. We'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.